Hey guys, today I'm doing a video review of the Canon XA25 digital camcorder, and I'm going to compare it to the Lumix GH5, which may not make sense since one's a camcorder and one's a mirrorless, but you can get both of these for roughly around the same price used on eBay, and most people who buy these cameras are probably buying them to do video mainly, since the Lumix is so well known for its video capabilities and camcorders can only do video. So first off, the XA series, it's Canon's professional digital camcorder line. This one came out in 2013. They still make them. They're up to the XA25. It's not part of the EOS line because you can't put different lenses on it. It's not interchangeable like the C-series cinema cameras are. So since it's a camcorder, there's some disadvantages. One, I mean, they're really out of style. You just don't see them. I mean, that's not important, but at the same time, you kind of don't want to be the one person using a camcorder. And you just don't see people using them. When I was a kid, everybody used camcorders all the time. They were like the big VHS box camcorders were everywhere. And I wanted one really bad. I thought they were so cool. But now camcorders are kind of like a thing of the past. So the only people you really see them are like broadcast professionals, news and media type things. They're bigger. They tend to be bigger. Now, weight-wise, this camcorder doesn't really weigh much more than this Lumix GH5. But the form factor makes it look bigger because they're kind of wider, they stick out farther. And then camcorders, if they do take photos, they're usually really bad, and they don't really have like a shutter button even, you know. You can take photos from the video, but they're definitely 100% oriented for video, unlike mirrorless and DSLRs now that can do great video and take great photos, but they're probably more designed for photos first. So the XA25 has some distinct advantages itself. One, it's pretty old. It's kind of outdated now, you know, 7, 8, 9 years old. It's getting kind of up there. It doesn't have 4K. It's only 1080p, but it does have 60 frames per second for slow motion, which is great. So I don't really care about 4K that much. It's not that important. I don't really use 4K all that often. But if I did, I would, really want to have it. And I may want to have it in the future. It may be more important in the future. So it's something that you ought to think about. Now, the newer XA series cameras, they do 4K, but they're quite a bit more expensive. Biggest probably thing, it's got that tiny little sensor. Camcorders have really little sensors. This one's 2.84 sensor. It's really tiny. So that means low light performance is generally pretty bad. And that means bokeh is generally really hard to get your background out of focus because the sensor is so small. It's got limited codecs. Now, this is pretty common on a lot of cameras. This is where the GH5 really shines, but this XA25, it only has a couple codec choices. You've got XA, or what's it called, AVC HD, and then you've got a standard MP4. The XAV HD does 28 megabits per second. In MP4 mode, it can do 35 megabits per second. This is 8-bit color, so it's not the finest. It doesn't give you a lot of options for codecs, but generally that's not really going to matter for what this camera is designed for. You can't change the lens. That's another big issue. You're stuck with that lens. Now, let's look at some advantages. First off, how about that lens? Okay, it's a 25 to 550 zoom. That's pretty incredible. That's way out there when you think about it. So 25 is plenty wide enough for most circumstances. That's going to get you a big wide area. And then that 550 is going to let you zoom in really far away, sports, action, events. It's going to bring things so close, it kind of blows your mind. And it looks really good zoomed in. Like, this lens is an awesome selling point for this camera because I don't have a lens this nice for any camera that I own. And it's there, it's built into the camera. But that does limit your options if you want something special or if you wanted to change or something. But for the most part, you would never really need to. That's everything you need. It has excellent autofocus. Camcorders have been doing autofocus for a long time. Because of the small sensor, everything is a little bit easier. So autofocus is a little bit easier, I think. It has great image stabilization. Camcorders have been doing that way longer than mirrorless and DSLR, and they've got that down really well. It's got pro audio hookups. It's got XLR hookups on the audio handle that's removable. So those pro audio hookups give you options for like something like this lapel mic And XLR is usually cleaner, better sounding signals since you don't have to rely on the preamps built inside your camera, which may not be so good. You've got clean HDMI out, which is super great if you want to stream, broadcast, or go to an external recorder of some kind, go to a monitor. That's really excellent. I've used that quite a bit for zooming and stuff. And it also has SDI for broadcast environments, which SDI, if you don't know what it is, you probably don't need to, but basically the cable is much more robust than HDMI, so you could have like a really long cable to go from your camera to your video mixer, your broadcasting solution. All right, so all that being said, let's take a look at this image stabilization. We'll get some moving footage outside with the two cameras and compare them and see how the XA25's dynamic image stabilization compares to the Lumix, which the GH5 has awesome in-body sensor stabilization, IBIS. Here's footage from the XA25. Pretty shaky. I don't know why I was holding it so crooked, but you can see the image stabilizer helping out. I had it zoomed in to about 50 millimeter equivalent, so it could match the 50 millimeter lens on the GH5, and definitely very shaky when moving around. So compared to the GH5, we can see its footage here. It's quite a bit smoother. It does a better job of keeping that shape down. So in-body image stabilization, a lot better than lens stabilization.
Pretty similar. I think maybe the GH5 does a little better job. Struggling to autofocus though. It's all over the place autofocusing.
All right, hey, let's check out low light performance, the XA25 versus the GH5 in low light performance. Now, this shouldn't really be a contest. I mean, it's old technology. It's a tiny sensor. Let's just see how it does.
It's not even a contest. The XA25 just isn't good in low light.
I've got all the lights turned off in the room. It looks way brighter on the screen than it actually looks in person. Wow. Okay. So it's pretty obvious that the XA25 doesn't have it in the image quality department. You're not buying this camera for image quality. So why would somebody need this camera? Well, it's just super functional, it's super versatile, and it's super reliable. I use this camera all the time. I have options of a DSLR and a couple different camcorders. This is the one I go to because it's like foolproof. I can hand this camera to a kid and say, okay, here's how you turn it on, here's how you zoom, here's how you record, and the shots are gonna look good almost every time. The audio hookups give me a lot of versatility, and the camera is just really robust. I mean, it's super clean, super easy to use. And it's just about that right size where it's not too big, it's small, but it's not too small either. So it just does everything really well. It's super reliable. Dual card slots, I forgot to mention, dual card slots are kind of handy when you want to record something really important and have a backup or not have to worry about it getting lost. The recording limit issue, which a lot of, the Lumix doesn't have, the GH5 doesn't have, but a lot of mirrorless cameras are limited to recording. Some overheat. You're not going to have to worry about this overheating. You can plug it into DC power. There's so many reasons why it's a really, really reliable, like working video camera if you just needed to record a lot of stuff and image quality isn't your primary concern. Most of us camera geeks are kind of overly concerned with image quality and worry about it too much, even though most people really just care about the content of the video and the quality of the video. So if you were looking for a solution for like simple, reliable video on the go, video on the move, you would be hard pressed to find something better than this for the price. I think it's an excellent solution. See ya.